This topic video today is going to be upon one of my favorite fandoms out there, or the number one, which I, here and there, I share, but just to share a little bit about how I got into this fandom, which is of Tokusatsu, and that is also of Super Sentai, which is my favorite out of the Tokusatsu international genres originated from Japan. Just it's hands down number one. Just want to share some thoughts and ideas and just some of my background on knowing about the Tokusatsu genre and Super Sentai in general, which is, as anybody who knows the translation of what's adapted here, which is Power Rangers. And so yeah, Super Sentai, as anybody may know viewing this, is the basis for Power Rangers. All the content that comes in creating Power Rangers here in the States, and any iteration that's also inspired in other countries, is all derived from Super Sentai from Japan. Part of my interest has been just phenomenal in sharing since I've enjoyed watching the series, more so beginning with Power Rangers, of course, like anybody growing up here in the States since '93. And so cool thing about knowing about what started it all and finding out about Power Rangers growing up is like MMPR. Its originator source footage comes from Zyuranger, which debuted in '92. And fun fact about Zyuranger is the same year I was born. So just that underlying fact right there, that just finding that out like years later, I was like, oh man, this is cool. So some of my favorite characters that stand out between knowing MMPR started it all is Jason, of course, Billy, Trini. I think those three were the strongest written, and to me those three really resonated a lot in pieces of who I am. Jason, who's strong-willed and enduring, Trini, who's nurturing and the peacemaker of the team, Billy, who's inquisitive and always logical about finding out new strategies and advantages in a scientific or analytical method. And I've broken that down throughout the years growing up, and I was like, yeah, these three are the strongest character wise for me in MMPR. With Zyuranger, finding that out years prior as I was growing up, teenager wise, because I didn't find out the full extent of Super Sentai in itself until like I was like 15, 16, and it was like my it was during my junior, going through post high school. And so like finding out like anybody else out there, internet searches, and always knowing that something was off based on the footage and watching it throughout the years. And then when the internet came about and was big, and I had the opportunity to access the internet, which was around early 2000s, that's where I started deriving and finding out, oh man, this footage, all the content, characters, monsters, it's all derived from these counterparts, which are the origins of the show and the productions that have been throughout the past, now going on over 25 years now for the Power Rangers franchise here. And so I was like, oh man, this is great. I mean, this is of another extent, just knowing the complete differences of the show, and knowing that we take something that of course is for kids, but from its origins we've kind of dumbed it down here compared to what they've done in Japan from its source, because a lot of things are more, I wouldn't say more edgier, but a little bit more serious and more competent towards not only the young audience, but an older audience who's also viewing as well over there compared to here nowadays. And knowing that further is, you know, I'm somebody who just, I love the, you know, further looking into the show and the production. I love the action and the dynamics. I like good storytelling. I like the complexity of some of the characters that have been derived. More so, I've turned into more of a Super Sentai fan here nowadays than Power Rangers, of course, being in my late 20s now. But some of my favorite seasons, as I've been able to access and have a chance to go back to now, going from Power Rangers, I have to say some of my favorites, of course, MMPR, but I can't say that's like the top, so I'm not making a top list here. Some others, Zeo, I have the fondest memories of Zeo. I think the cast transition was great, and I think throughout the course of the span of the transition from MMPR to Zeo, that it was a great bridging of something fresh and renewed for the franchise at that point. Some underrated seasons that not a lot of people talk about that are definitely on my top 10 list are Lightspeed Rescue, and I have to admit that is actually my favorite season overall. I mean, it's a great season, gauging both the realistic component but also fantastical at the same time, a good balance. I think the characters were strong. I think, you know, the whole essence of that being such an original standout season, apart from its Sentai counterpart being QQ Sentai Go-Go 5, which originated back in '99, back then for Super Sentai for Toei, was just great. I mean, because during that period of time, after the post-Zordon era, that season really stuck out to me. Wild Force, underrated. I mean, underrated season. I mean, I know it has its bad points, but to me, I really resonated with Wild Force during that time, especially growing up in the mid 2000s when it came out. I'm a big animal person. I like the conservation notions and points that they put out throughout the representation and the themes of that show. And just from there, another good season going into the Disney era of Power Rangers. That's a standout for me is SPD. I mean, you can't beat SPD when it comes to the whole science fiction, futuristic components, knowing that both SPD here that we know and its original counterpart, Deca Ranger, Tokusatsu Sentai Deca Ranger, that came out in 2004 out there in Japan during that time. I mean, both strong. I mean, phenomenal seasons in itself, respectively. Besides that, those are the strongest standout seasons to me, Power Ranger side wise. As everybody knows, when it came to the Neo Saban era, that was, of course, like anybody growing up, yeah, those seasons were okay. I mean, I dipped in and out, you know, after RPM, which was 2009. I dipped in and out at that point throughout the years. I've checked it out here and there, but those, to be honest, those shows weren't so strong, and they did garner hitting that young demographic and trying to recapture that nostalgia from MMPR. And it's just like MMPR is a lightning in a bottle type of product. I mean, you can't duplicate it, you can't replicate it. So it's one of those things, as a fan looking into it, it's like, I appreciate some of the new elements here and there that they tried to present in those Neo Saban era seasons, but again, a lot of it was just regurgitated type stuff, just with a new look and just new faces. So from there, I have to say, just like anybody else out there, the one season that stood out to me as I checked out here in these prior recent years was Dino Charge. I think that one, they did something very original, very true towards respecting the original counterpart being Kyoryuger, which came out back in 2013 for Japan. That a lot of those creators, writers during that time did fantastic, doing its own original thing for the content that they spliced together, and just creating something fresh and new to stand out, and also respect the content that they were using the source footage from. So I have to say that's definitely on my list of top 10 Power Ranger seasons as of the newest and current. As far as a little bit on my Super Sentai background, during the time that I found out in the early thousands, but didn't really delve fully in the extent of the atmosphere of Super Sentai, wasn't until 2008, and that was the starting to wrap up the season during that time in Japan, which was Engine Sentai Go Onger, which debuted in 2008. I was post going into my high school years, and with internet access, I gauged Go Onger, and then I really sunk my teeth into the following season, which is still a standout season to me in production since then, which was 2009 Samurai Sentai Shinkenger. And Shinkenger, man, I mean, just true to itself, awesome. I mean, I love the warrior stylings, samurais. I love the Japanese culture, man. I love that they really stuck towards the folklore and the traditions and just the aesthetics of that season. And I love the characters. I mean, standout actors to me from that season are Tori Matsuzuka. I might be butchering some of that name, but he played Shiba Takeru, Shinken Red. I mean, phenomenal character, man. Another character that really resonated with me, female-wise, out of that team would have to be Mako, which is Shinken Pink from that team. I love her character and how she was down to earth, the core, the heart, the mothering figure of that series. And just around about since then, from 2009 to the current now, I've been a fan. To kind of wrap things up on the Super Sentai side of my interest, I've loved Go Busters. That's a standout one from 2012. I love Tokyuger from 2014. I mean, great. Here recently, a season that not a lot of people really latched onto on both sides of the spectrum of the globe would be Zyuohger. Again, I mean, just it hit great points for me during that time back in 2016, and just kind of revisiting here and there throughout. And here most recently, not too recently, another great season that I loved and checked out was the Kaito Sentai Lupin Ranger versus Keisatsu Sentai Pat Ranger, which came out in 2018, which now is 3 years ago, which is crazy how time flies. So yeah, those are just some points of reference in who I am, my interest in those fandoms. As far as my Showa sense in the Super Sentai phenomenon of the franchise in Japan, some standout seasons that I've gotten a chance to check out here in the recent years. Top so far show wise is Dengeki Sentai Changeman, which was back in 1985. I think the 80s era of Super Sentai as a whole was a great, just a great stretch. I mean, it's crazy to see some of the content that they put out there for those shows, and knowing that it wasn't entirely made for young audiences, but it captured the balance of being some of those seasons lighthearted but engaging and realistic in a way to mature a broader audience than just kids. And it wasn't so focused on toys so much and merchandise towards the effect towards kids, more so in the present time than compared to back then. It was this good storytelling, good action, the focus of special effects, and the degree of telling great, superhero stories based on those plots and storylines for those particular teams. So yeah, man, I mean, I just want to share this video just to kind of get it out there, share a little bit about my interest, and just to know that I'm one of those low-key diehard fans, but I'm one of those fans that really cares and really appreciates having the opportunity to watch these shows and be inspired based on the fantastical storytelling, but also the engaging elements that bring about telling just great superhero stories and great human stories that reflect a lot of things in the whole scheme of things of like the main central theme these shows are rounded out about, which are, good versus evil. So yeah, and quick little tidbit fact as I wrap this up, as it's going on 18 minutes now, is that MMPR in its source footage, being a fan and knowing so much rounded out of the history and just, fun fact with Zyuranger and the antagonist. The antagonists of Zyuranger are all based on folklore, mythological presence. I mean, you have Witch Bandora, aka Rita, who's, based on, witches and sorceresses. You got the putties that we know here in the States, which are known as golems in the show in Japan. Zyuranger are based on the folklore entity creature known as golem. You got characters like Scorpina, which are based on Lami. I believe it's the Greek Mesopotamian legendary creature, the Lami. Goldar, which is known from Zyuranger as Grifforizer, based on a griffin. You got Finster, who I'm gonna butcher the name of his original character from Zyuranger, but he's basically based on the leprechaun. And then lastly, you got Squat and Babu that we know, which are known as Topat and Bookback from Zyuranger. Each one respectively is based on a troll and a vampire. So that's just a little bit behind the scenes based on the concepts of those characters that I found out about, that I love, because I'm a big fantasy, folklore, historical individual who loves the history of folklore and legendary creatures and mythology. So yeah, I mean, besides that, today is a very interesting day, being a weekend and snowing from out here from where my area is. So I just want to take advantage and use this time to kind of document this, and just show everybody out there who may view this video that yeah, I'm a fan. If you have any ideas, or you want to share with me your interest also in Tokusatsu or Super Sentai, don't be afraid to comment in this video when I post it, and we'll chop it up, you know, through the social medias. So take care, be blessed, and in the connotation and dialect of later in Japanese, abayo.